welcome to another ARC review. This one I found by casually scrolling through Book Sirens. I saw this cover, and it pulled me in straight away. A wrecked ship, the horror genre, fog, giving it a ghostly ambience. I am all in. So this is my ARC review for Choking on the Deadlight by RD Nightshade. So let's have a look at the blurb. You believe in them and they'll make damn sure you never stop. Grieving and unmoored after her mother's death, Miriam seeks refuge in the fog-shrouded town of Lasker's Cove at the invitation of her childhood best friend, Clara. But before she can settle in, Clara vanishes without a trace, leaving behind only a burned symbol scorched into her bedroom floor and a journal filled with frantic notes about the fog. As Miriam digs deeper, she uncovers the town's chilling history of disappearances, all tied to the glowing orbs of light, the Deadlights, that haunt the coastline. The locals refuse to talk, but she finds an unlikely ally in Cal, a grizzled fisherman whose life was shattered when the Deadlights claimed his best friend, Eddie. Cal warns her that the lights don't just lure people into the mist, they consume them. But the truth lurking beneath the fog is far worse. At the centre of the Deadlights is Wraith, something neither ghost nor god, a fractured being who has spent lifetimes trying to remember what he once was. He isn't like the others, not anymore, but he's dying along with the world that made him, and Miriam's arrival has changed everything. Now that sounds like something that would be right up my alley, and it certainly sounded like it would be. And we'll get there. Because the story had atmosphere. It really did. But the writing, oh my god. It confused the hell out of me and it started to give me a headache. So much so that I ended up hate finishing this book. If this book was 300 pages or above, it would have been an unfortunate DNF. I was not about to be defeated by a novella that is only 164 pages. I was determined to finish the damn thing, and finish it I did, with a headache and an intent never to pick it up again. And you'll say, well, why are you making a video if you didn't like it? I'm making a video because not everything on my channel is going to be 5 stars. I am not going to like everything I read. And not to put something out there would be a little bit disingenuous. Because not everything that everyone reads is all roses and rainbows. You do get bad along with the good. So let's get into the things that annoyed me. And my god, did they annoy me. Now, just to clarify, I don't mind a story being confusing if it's part of the plot. And I don't mind a character being an unreliable narrator when it's done well and it coincides with the plot. This is so damn repetitive and confusing, and I don't think it's on purpose, having read to the end. It really doesn't seem like it is. It just seems like it wasn't at all planned out and the author couldn't remember what they'd wrote. And I have examples because I was infuriated. When I read, I have my notebook next to me and I usually make like bullet pointed notes. With this one, it was a full page of paragraph of annoyance because it really started ramping up. So let's see what annoyed me the most, because I have examples. Now I'm going to try my best to work around any spoilers in case somebody does want to read this thing. But it is very confusing as to where characters are in scenes. So like one of these, Miriam has gone down to the docks to talk to Cal. They're standing on the docks having this conversation. And in the midst of having this conversation, suddenly they're sat in a room on stools. And then again, a few sentences down in this conversation, they're back outside but not near the docks, but they're just outside, with no indication that the characters have moved around at all. They're just there. And it's like that annoyed me, but that was the first one. So I thought, alright, maybe it's a stylistic choice that, you know, to indicate that Miriam is an unreliable character, which she is, but not for the great reasons. So I thought I'll let that slide. But I still made a note of it. It isn't consistent in location, and not just for that scene, but for a majority of other scenes as well. It just isn't consistent. And it has no emotion in this book. It just flatlines. There's no emotion there. Nothing from any of the characters. Nothing. They're emotionally dead, which I thought was on purpose, which I'll get to. So Miriam rocks up to visit her best childhood friend, Clara, and that same night Clara goes missing in the thick fog, which is a little bit weird. And Miriam has no emotional response at all, other than a vague kind of curiosity as to what the shape is on etched into her bedroom floor and where she might have gone in the fog. She does make a half-assed attempt at going to look for her the day after. She just reads Clara's journal, which has loads of different details about the fog, but she only reads a part of it. And then she goes off into town to, you know, see if anybody's seen her loitering about in the thick fog that nobody can see anybody in. And she meets Cal down at the docks and spills everything out to her. Exactly what Clara was doing, what she was searching for, what her notes were in her journal. Just spills everything. And this is after getting side-eyed by the other people in town and leading Miriam not to trust them. But she just spills her guts to this guy because, he's a good listener. That's it. That's apparently all it takes. There's even inconsistencies with Clara's journal. So Clara tells Miriam that her parents lived in this village. She grew up there. So if Clara was Miriam's childhood best friend, then Miriam would have grown up in this village and thus grown up with the fog and been able to know everything about it. But she doesn't. And they didn't. Now, one thing that made me think that this was all done on purpose was within the very first page of the book. Clara's explicit instructions to Miriam when she gets off the bus to stay in the bus stop if it is foggy, and Clara would come and get her. She was by no means allowed, it was not safe for her to go wandering about in the fog outside of the bus stop without Clara with her. So that made me think, is this sort of a Silent Hill vibes kind of thing? Especially with the inconsistencies at the beginning. I thought, if that's on purpose, it might be a Silent Hill thing. It wasn't, but I thought it might be. And Miriam as a character, even at the beginning, is so bloody annoying. She's just dead inside, practically. And she's dull. And she's a bit boring. It got to be a chore. It really did, because the only perspective we have is hers. And we're stuck with her for all of the 164 pages. She's all we have. So one of the other inconsistencies is Miriam gets a phone call at Clara's house from the female librarian, telling her that what Clara ordered for research purposes has now come in and they are holding it for her. So could she please go down and go get it? So Miriam does. She goes down to the library in thick fog in a village she hasn't been before and doesn't get lost, and wanders the library shelves because there is nobody about. And on a random bookshelf she finds a map and a folder. The folder turns out to be what Clara has ordered, what the librarian has on hold for her, on a random shelf in a random bookcase, which is not at all anywhere near the library desk, which is where you would assume that if something is ordered on purpose for somebody, that is where it would be held, not just dumped on a random library shelf that Miriam is just wandering up and down. And when she picks it up, the male librarian, comes to her and spouts off some nonsense about a shipwreck and that Miriam should talk to Cal if she's interested. And Miriam talks like she's never met him before. We met him 2 pages ago and you had the conversation with him down at the docks, and he was the one that you spilled all your guts to about Clara and the things in the fog and the things in her journal. But on meeting him the second time after the library, we're treated to another description of what he looks like, what his backstory is, as if we have never met him. But we have 2 pages ago, and we got all this then. We don't need it again, but we got it. Lucky us. So this is where I started getting annoyed with it, because I love horror, but illogical inconsistencies were getting rather annoying. And no, this is only 164 pages. It took me 2 days to finish it. 2 days! Because I was so annoyed with it. And my notes started to reflect that I was getting incredibly annoyed, because Cal and Miriam are having a conversation in Clara's kitchen. It is well established that you are sat in Clara's house, in the kitchen at the, can't remember what that thing's called, a table in the middle. They're having this conversation about the fog and the things that Miriam is seeing or thinks she's seeing, and Cal tells her to stop snooping and that she should go back to her friend's house that they're currently sat in having this conversation. Make that make sense, because it's all in the same paragraph and you can't tell me that the author forgot where they are. And every time Miriam enters Clara's house, she has to describe it as being hollow and chilling. Every single time she enters the door. We get it, it's an empty house in the fog at the seaside. But really, every single time she opens the door, the house has a hollow and chilling-like feeling. And also, how the hell did Cal find her in thick fog when she goes wandering at the top of the cliffs? She's hallucinating as well, by the way, which makes her incredibly unreliable. But the reason that Miriam is up at the top of the cliffs in the thick fog is she's searching for the shipwreck because she wants to explore it. If you're looking for a shipwreck, wouldn't it be better to be down with the water near the beach or on the, I don't know, rockery, like brig thing, than going wandering about at the top of the cliffs where you could fall and need saving? I swear she's not a full deck. And every time Miriam goes to sleep, she talks about how unnerving and unnatural the fog is pressing up against the glass windows. Every single time she goes to bed, and it unnerves her, it gives her nightmares, she doesn't like it because it feels oppressive. Close the bloody curtains! She describes the window, it has curtains, it's a little house. All the rooms have curtains, the windows have curtains. If you don't like seeing the fog when you're going to sleep, close the curtains. It's a logical thing, and it wasn't there, and it annoyed me more than it should have done. Another thing, Miriam goes on and on and on about how the fog, and she's searching for Clara, but she doesn't seem to really care. But she hasn't sat down and read the journal front to back yet. She read a bit at the beginning, and she reads odd bits here and there, and skims it. She doesn't actually sit down and read the damn thing, which could give her more of an insight to what's going on, but she never does that, and thus we don't get it. Now, is this story bad? No. It's not all bad. It's incredibly annoying, and it gets 2 stars. But is it atrocious? No. There were points when the writing was genuinely unnerving. I found myself beginning to get drawn into it, and then nothing. And these were the points when Miriam was out in thick fog, and the atmospheric descriptions are just downright creepy, as they are supposed to be. Sound is muffled, buildings are distorted and just looming up out of this fog, and there's sort of shapes moving around in it, but they sort of disappear, and she's not sure whether she's actually seeing people or whether she's seeing these deadlights. And don't even get me started on that, because that reminded me too much of It. I couldn't concentrate on that. These deadlights, they're not deadlights, they're just little orb-like things. So that drew me in for all the wrong reasons too. But Miriam is in this fog, and she is unreliable, and she's having hallucinations, so you don't know whether she is... I'm losing the light. I'm fucking losing the light, that's very annoying. Jesus, holy Christ. I'm lit up and I'm back. But yeah, she's wandering around in the fog, and she doesn't know whether what she's seeing is real, or whether the fog's distorting reality, or whether she's just going insane. But the main problem that this book had for me is that the story seems to hover on the borderline of the horrific and the thrilling. But ultimately, when it comes to it, it draws back, as if it's scared of crossing that line into either being horrific or thrilling. It just gets you there and, oh no. And it does it multiple times. And what we get is something a bit sedate and lackluster and a little bit boring. And one good thing, I didn't see the end coming. But by the end, I didn't care. I didn't care about Miriam. I didn't care about Cal. I didn't care whether she found Clara, because that seemed like a backstory to whatever she wanted to find out about the fog anyway. And I just didn't care whether she made it out alive or not, because by the end, it had annoyed me too much. I just didn't give two hoots about anyone or anything or any issue involved. So yeah, this was my arc read, or this was my review of Choking in the Deadlights. Do I think it could have been done better? Yes. Could I have done better? I'm not a writer. I'm just a reader. Some people love this. Some people would love this book. It just didn't vibe it for me. And that's all she wrote.